got to see it at an anime convention.
There we go.
And of course, that freeze-dried candy that's like everywhere for some reason. But this is where we got a sense of just how little there was to actually do at this con. Because we walked through the vendor room in probably less than 15 minutes and saw all of it. There's nothing wrong with that. Just different. Just small. It's just the kind of vendor room that's absolutely perfect for going to a con for a day. You're all weekend. So we were going to need to turn to the programming to have something to do. So we looked at the schedule, and while there were some events that did look interesting tomorrow, there wasn't much being offered on Friday. So we went to do the one thing small conventions are great for, a place to go take pictures in your fun outfit. So let me tell you more about that. Because the story of how this outfit came together is pretty interesting. Because it was about to not. This vest was the practice round for my Oparoon cosplay that I haven't started yet besides patterning and manga. But my method for buying manga fabric was just going to Goodwill in search of any brown. And they got telling about the trick gods because they found this gorgeous brown and gold brocade tablecloth and this matching table runner. No, it may be curtain, I'm not actually sure, but it was such a lucky find.
Increment.
Are actually straps I made for my Breath of the Wild link that I forgot quite even because I consistently forget that I make that cosplay because I made it in 2020 and nothing that happened at that time remains in my brain. And then I went to Walmart a week before the con and found the closest thing I could to a cowboy hat, which is this, which I can only describe as about that. And then some crab bones, some sticks, and some apple barrel paint tubes later, and we have a steaming hot cowboy. Which shows you how my last really exists without tuberculosis. Kind of. It was made in 3 hours and it's covered in hot glue strings. My God, it looks like something else with steam on so that isn't it? Anyone in March Floyd?
I got it.
Anyway, it was time for my panel, which was my absolute basics of sewing panel. And this would be my first impression of how popular I was as a chorus for the steampunks. And the answer was not at all. The small con is I wasn't surprised that many people came, and the people that came were absolutely lovely. But some were con. I'll get to that. But more than 4 people did eventually show up, including one of my patrons, Jeannie Bean. And there was this nice older man who kept giving me all these big smiles over the jokes written in my PowerPoint. But in the back row sat a woman who came in before the panel even started. And she spent the entire panel commenting under her breath over what I had to say. This person clearly knew how to sew, as she had a few comments during the question portion that made that clear. But thanks, lady, for scoffing at a panel that you didn't even meet. But yeah, I was expecting the open arm of steampunks. Really clear, the staff accepted me. The owners of the con even came to my panel and asked questions. I felt incredibly welcomed and respected by the con staff. And maybe I was just feeling a little shy today, or maybe I'm just used to having strangers that come ask for my picture because I'm dressed up as characters they like. But nobody asked for a picture of Brendan, which I guess I expected. It's because it's not like I'm dressed as a popular character from a popular show, except my fiance was, and nobody even knew who he was. One person, Jimmy Johnson, is a member of Marquis of Vaudeville band that was going to perform at the con. Look at that. We had dinner with on Friday night, and she loved Joe's cosplay, but she and her partner would be totally people excited to see it in. And feeling out of place at the con did not compare to how incredibly strange it felt to walk through the casino in funny clothes, because that casino never slows down there to gamble far outnumber the con. I will say, I did get a feeling of acceptance from the fandom whenever I passed another steampunk in the casino because they give me a nod as if to say, yeah, I see you, fellow weirdo. Glad you're under the poker sign at this moment. And you might think that as a cosplayer, I'm used to walking around in weird clothing, but no, I felt very strange in this casino. Most cons I go to are insulated from the public, and this was not. Anyway, last thing we did on Friday night was actually a dinner that we were invited to that was for VIP attendees to get to have dinner with the owners of the con and some of the guests. Now, I didn't film a lot of this other than a few random shots of my food and Joe being quiet, but this dinner
You know
was
what?
expected to
Tiny
be a
Cats it is.
turning point.
That's what we're doing.
Because for me, unsurprisingly, finding out that steampunks do not think steampunk can't ever die, just like its cousin God. Steampunk has fallen out of style, though, and while I don't mean this offensively at all, but judging by the age range of the attendees at the con, it is clear that steampunk as a fandom is aging. There's nothing wrong with that. It became scary to think about. And also, while at this dinner, we learned that a few members of the con staff had started to get sick. While Friday was supposed to be the day that I assimilated into the steampunk, Saturday was going to be the day to test whether or not it's weird to wear an anime cosplay to a steampunk convention, because I had brought my new clothes tonight. But I just did not know what to wear for two reasons. One, if nobody knew who our guest was yesterday, with Severance being such a big show, then nobody was going to know what Dandadan was either. And my whole point of wearing Momo was to use cosplay as its intended purpose to find people that wanted to talk about Dandadan, but I was pretty sure that that wouldn't happen. And two, walking around the casino was weird enough as a cowboy, but I'd at least get a nod from the steampunk basketball. But if I was Momo, then I would just be weird on all fronts. So I decided to for Sunday in hopes that there would be less casino goers then, and decided to combine my own favorite alternate fashion with steampunk. But honestly, I kind of just wanted to keep wearing my fun hat. Plus, all the bags that I had on the straps were sick. Anyway, while Friday was pretty underwhelming with its programming, Saturday had a few things that we wanted to get to. I had my own panel at 11, but then at 4 o'clock there was Nerf battling, which seemed like a pretty integral part of steampunk culture. So we headed down to the dealership and ended up buying some pins and charms from one of the booths selling anime merch, and even got to see a little bit of the teapot racing, which was hilarious and also self-explanatory. But then two interactions set the stage for what was about to happen. The first was a conversation we had with Geneva of Marquise of Vaudeville, who was sitting at her table in the hallway. We asked her if she was excited for the concert tonight. She touched her face and said, well, two of the bandmates are sick, including the singer. They were up all night, and they might not be able to perform. A little later, we passed by the owner of the con in the hallway on the way to my panel, and I just stood there filling the belly laughers. Joe spoke to him for a moment, and this is where we caught wind that something terrible was coming. The owner told Joe that the sickness a few people had was possibly norovirus, which is highly contagious. So it's contagious through touch and not through the air. And we did notice then that the con had switched out the water stations from jugs to bottles. So while we were concerned, I still had a panel, and this was one that I was actually confident in the structure of and was pretty sure that I was the singular expert on at the con, my cosplay content for YouTube. Yeah, because unless Jimmy Beast himself showed up, I didn't think anyone would be making comments under their breath this thing, and nobody did. More importantly, though, this panel was where I got to meet some online friends I've known for a while, but have never gotten a chance to meet in real life, and who would ultimately end up being our saviors of the weekend. And Trevor, who some may know is the people that made story. I probably told them if I had you. I was still determined to go to the Crow Exchange, which is where you go trade little trinkets like a crow. I had brought a little bag of beads to trade, and I did get to exchange a few shiny beads, but with how packed the room was and the norovirus thing looming, it's a pretty great thing as it just didn't seem like a good idea. So we had to go to the TV Wing, which is one of WWC's headlining events. And M even got to participate. This is a goofy little game where two people dunk cookies into tea and they have to wait a set amount of time and then they kill them up, and whoever eats wins. But if your cookie falls apart, you lose. It's cookie chicken. It was really cute, and even if you lost, you won a giant lemon from somebody who brought a bunch of lemons to the con because they had a lemon tree and it made too many lemons. So on stage with their I'm going to steal a joke from John Green's book, but it's a joke he stole from someone else. If this was a movie, this would be the part where the con would pull out the white rag and start coughing. because in the middle of the panel, they got on the mic to announce that they had to end the panel early. They shut down the panel with no explanation. Was this just for this panel? Or was it I think yeah, I was yeah. Yeah, I was terrible. It was horrible. Well, I got to film you doing it. So. 2 minutes right and sit down to color at the comic book fan, and we barely hit marker to coloring page when we overheard a staff reach the train station.
Oh, yeah.
While it did feel weird to do this, of course, I kept recording. What I got next was the craziest stuff I have ever seen. We approached the comic book band man to get clarification on what we overheard. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. Now I don't need to order that to close that's the only people want to get to. We need to fibrous. Well, I can see it's very simple. Anyway, there's plenty of time for you got no concerns. They're saying, don't blame the little virus. That's insane. I think that's what it is. And when I tried to go back inside, I was met with a Chinese representative making the announcement. The event we have not only inside, if you stay in our house, first sitting down in front of the family dinner, and then there's all why? Yes, not too long, not too long. Yeah. Even so they said why? I'm not able to take care of this big signal that we can what? I don't work. So they have a big beverage, but right now, oh my god, I don't work first. No more. Girl, we have to go out of the room and then yes. Bill and I were panicking because most people at this event were local and could just go home. We flew in, we didn't have a and our flight wasn't until Monday. And it wasn't just us. One of the other guests, Madam Misfit, she came all the way from England, so she really had nowhere to go. And the airport is pretty small, so there were not a whole lot of options for changing. So luckily, Rose and Trevor were still around. They had ridden from Phoenix for the day, and they graciously and thankfully agreed to be our escape plan. So they went back to their car, but me and Joe had met back inside, trying to get back to our hotel room. And on the way, we asked a few friendly faces what they knew.
Structure data. We will do this. Yes.
So the Skylands have declared that there's available position. Somebody's made a view just as so there's the young con of the case. Whatever problems, I don't think it's like there. If we have $2 to pass them. Thank you. Why. We also did consider the cons did have a working in our speech.
There we go.
And we have made terrible experience of packing up all of our stuff within an hour, which was stressful and bad, as I'm sure you can imagine it was, and it made me very sweaty. I barely remembered to wash off the weird makeup I was wearing. And because we can't carry it only, there was no room for my cheez-its, so they got left behind. No, it wasn't
Really do have time to
maybe
do
there are or anything to get out. Anyway, when we were
Just make
sleeping, we
unilateral
got our
decisions.
flights changed, and our angels in the desert took us all the way to Phoenix, which was really bad because we got to see way more of the beautiful desert. The wild thing, though, was that it seemed
You know what?
the casino people or anyone at the hotel that was not a member of the con was not asked to leave. In fact, as we waited to take the elevator down, we heard from people who were in their rooms that someone had called the hotel rooms to tell everybody to get out. So in the moment, we were not actually sure if the entire venue got evacuated or if it was just the con attendees, but for the con, there were several articles that confirmed that no, the casino goers and the other hotel guests, they were allowed to stay, which is just kind of crazy, but also stupid. Because if your concern is a disease spreading, making people leave is just going to spread the disease further, which, funnily enough, is exactly what happened. Anyway, on our drive to Phoenix, we got a few updates from the other guests that showed that the con staff did manage to get all the guests somewhere else to stay, but we literally drove into the sunset and got some yummy dinner in Phoenix, but this was not the fairy tale ending that I was going to be, because while getting to the airport went smooth, everything went. Suffice it to say, we were kind of just excited to get on the plane to just pass it. This person that we got with on this plane, they did that baby from the first flight look like a saint, because at least that was a baby. That baby had no idea that they were annoying people, but on this flight, girl directly behind me, a grown ass adult turned her right in blue ass light LED ass
We're doing Bar.
she could read a book. Anyway, I put my sweater over my head to block out the light, and I did end up going to sleep for like most of the flight, but the night fair wasn't over. Karma was about to bring that girl into the night fair too, because about 20 minutes before landing, plane jumbled around. And the heat from having my sweatshirt on my head was starting to get to me, and I knew something was coming, something I have known before. I was about to throw up from motion sickness. And I tried to grab the stick bag in the seat, but it was too late. One, the mixed greens from my salad was. Two, I covered my beloved Manco shirt in man juices. Three, at the corner of my eye, I could see reader cupcakes. While I thought in my sleeping days that I had motion sickness, I legit thought that because I have several complaints from that before. It became pretty clear as we got out of the airport and the vomiting did not stop that I had something else because it wouldn't end for a few more. A trip whose entire purpose was to answer the question, is steampunk dead? To end with a disease that really could be deadly to its aging face. Sad. Is it? A few days later, the con put out a very detailed press release that laid out everything they knew, which was a lot. In their statement, they say that the con was never actually told a hard reason for the shutdown, but that they were aware that some vendors, staff, and guests had gotten sick, but they didn't know how many. Or they complained. It also included an update section that stated an hour before the con was able to put out their own statement, the venue made one to news media, claiming that the shutdown was from norovirus. But this article was frustrated me because where was the venue's proof that it was in fact norovirus? Another article pointed out that the venue has never put forward any proof.
Oh no, the colors.
Was it just something somebody
Let's write about it.
on statement?
Okay.
I heard a movie for a rumor that someone may have had norovirus. So on Saturday at 1:28 p.m., one of the owners sent a text to our event manager at the Casino del Sol that
Stupidity is not being
included
wrong. Stupidity is not being
in the hope of opening a dialogue about the situation. He never stated that this was the confirmed source of the mystery illness. We only shared the information as
Where's
it
that
was
insanity?
prepared to
That's
cooperate. We
insanity.
waited for further direction, but less than 2 hours later, we were pulled into a meeting where the convention was shut down. And when people on Facebook started theorizing that maybe it was actually food poisoning, the venue responded with, to be frank, this situation has been given far more attention than it warrants. Venues and events across the country experience norovirus cases from time to time, and this is simply a case of a group being unhappy with Casino del Sol's decision to prioritize the health and safety of guests, team members, and tribal members. So what about the safety of those playing slot machines? Why didn't they have to leave? But I, like the people on Facebook, was really annoyed with the lack of concrete proof of norovirus, especially when Joe, who I puked right next to several times, did not get sick. And I went and got the proof with my own body. I went and took a PCR test for norovirus, and I was told that the test covers everything gastrointestinal. So no matter what it was, the test would tell us. So I'm going to do a sample test for this video. If that does not make you subscribe, or at least hit the like button, like, tell me I'm not editing. Please subscribe. And the test results were norovirus. That's the proof. I just don't understand why we couldn't confirm that. And yeah, it's probably a HIPAA thing, but just so nobody else thinks it's food poisoning, I can violate my own HIPAA. Here you go. Here's the thing, though. Nobody's mad that the con got shut down. We're angry that your disorganized communication caused all of this unnecessary panic in people that were about to get sick. I panicked and got on a plane, but I wouldn't have done that if you didn't freak me out by making me do a speed run of packing up my hotel room. And I mean, can you really blame the tribal authority for seeing a bunch of people speaking with fake British accents, drinking tea, and spreading diseases and going, yeah, they'll not go. That part is fair. But why did the venue staff not have anything they could tell us? Why did they say things like the con will have answers, but then the con is like, we need answers from you? Why are you making people check out within an hour? People gonna get all of that equipment out in 2 hours. They did. Everybody was out in like 5 hours. So I give people the unattainable time limits and cause all of this panic. And why are you also cleaning the casino? Like I was in there. I have footage of it. I had norovirus. Here's me in your casino with norovirus. It was just so unreasonably stressful and disrespectful. And while I can understand the authorities' reasoning, I cannot help but feel really for this con. These people are so nice to us. They clearly wanted not just me, everybody at the con, such a good time. Adorable fun about juice.
Tiny text not known. What I'm gonna go with. Your last name must fit with it. He was telling me that it can't be.
And I don't know how to answer any of my questions that I have up to the venue. Only they can answer them. So I'm sorry this happened last time. But so thank you for one of the correct stories I will ever be able to tell. You have certainly earned the right to put a light in your name, not just once, but twice. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the channel directly, you can check out my Patreon and exclusive content. If you're just watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, sending the video to a friend or your mom, or subscribing, please subscribe. Then you're supporting the channel too. So thank you. Thank you to M. Trevor again for getting us out of Tucson and over to Phoenix. Huge thank you for Joe taking care of me when I was sick. Thank you to the staff of Wild Wild West for being so cool. I'm sorry that this is how the video ended up being, but that's how this cookie. But the biggest thank you, my most big support to your patrons. Thanks, Lionel, Denise, and Kat. Thanks so much for watching.
On Unicode.
For the first time ever, I made my way across the country to attend Anime Los Angeles. I was invited to judge their renowned cosplay contest and, of course, jumped at the chance both to see some incredible cosplay performances, but also Pacific Ocean for the very first time. But I did not expect to be peeking at the Pacific through smoke. Yeah,
spring
leaving Los Angeles the day after the LA fires. So really quick, it feels really weird to be making a silly movie animated vlog that was recorded the weekend. The city that it was in was literally on fire. We were never anywhere near the fire, and in the darkest times, we need silly goofy. Also something I knew. on, I feel right telling this story without doing some good stuff. Estimating the AdSense that this video generates in the first 30 days to get cities and humane societies support their efforts in reuniting animals with their owners. There's also a donation link in the description if you'd like to use it on your own. You are helping them
because I can do what I want.
very clear.
What I want to say is reading all the things for her to leave. In your choices I need.
John took us down to the Long Beach Convention Center, which is a pretty big convention center that has one attached hotel. The Hyatt.
Yes.
With all the other guests and to the staff, it seems, were in the Westin Lounge. And after simply into our nice room, I had one anxiety point that I needed to settle. I went to this con carry on only. They single cosplay. My Kasane Pato, who I managed to fit entirely into my carry-on rig. So I was anxious to see if my rig would go. Well, she's perfect. Look. She made it perfect. Find your spot shape. Out of place. I had recently redone my anime days, so I was mostly worried about those. They looked incredible, so I plopped her next to me, which was okay.
It's kind of
I just haven't seen that. Because we were still on East Coast time, we took our Wednesday as our stay up as late as we can and only made it to 9 p.m. before passing out. Thursday started with an absolute treat. The con was offering the guests free breakfast at the hotel. And I was expecting, like, your standard hotel breakfast, which I love, by the way. I love a breakfast buffet. But this was not was whatever you want from the fancy breakfast menu. Joe got a breakfast burrito, and I could not resist the pancake. It was only Thursday, and this is already crazy nice treatment, but the time was good breakfast. Got into a cool version.
Nothing sad. It used to be nice.
Worried about came from the West into the conventions because I'm not familiar with this area, but it truly is across the street. Because with the Rainbow Bridge, the Rainbow Bridge, the line to get in was right there. And I already had my badge because they just gave it to me at the West End, but we still needed Joe's, and the con staff told me to skip the security line, so we did. Which was pretty nice because the only thing I ever heard complaints about was the security, because apparently they were being really strict about this on day one, but eventually loosened up those restrictions at the weekend progressed. I grabbed Joe's badge, and I immediately got my first ribbon. Oh my god! Thank you! Yes, ALA is a very ribbon-heavy con, but the Long Beach Convention Center's atrium? Is this an atrium?
I'm hurting going down like that.
Shallow for an atrium, but their convention center part with pretty windows. It is great. Super big, but it also never really fronts super crowded. It's also 2 floors, so I think that helps. But this is where we discovered a really cute decoration detail in that throughout the con, there are pictures of cosplayers at previous ALAs with both the cosplayers and the photographers credited on the print. Decent fun, and I wish more cons would do this. Also, shout out to the person who just unpromptedly fixed this one. Behavior this con was 10 out of 10, by the way. I'll just know how to act. Anyway, it was time to check out the dealer's room, which is open early day on Thursday. Just cons that I don't know to open up the dealer's room until Friday. But it was late morning on Thursday, and it was already open. And it's really cool to see a lot of vendors and artists that I've never seen before. Because on the East Coast, we tend to see the same people a lot at every con we go to. But this is a whole other coast with all different people, so this was really cool. Chocolate! I'm buying some of those. Are some of those almonds? I'm buying me some chocolate. I'm buying me some chocolate. But then it was time for the one thing I had scheduled to do for the day, an autograph signing. Since I had never been to the coast before, I had no idea how many people would know who I was. Well, when we walked up, it didn't seem like anybody was there. The staff apparently built a line for people away from the tables to give that person time to set up. So I did have to do it right. It wasn't a ton of people. I had plenty of time to be silly goofy. This is where I learned the deep rooted importance of ribbons, ALA. I've never seen someone break down a ribbon. I did hear many people claim that ALA is the original ribbon con, and though it may have actually originated, like all things in Western fandom culture, in the sci-fi community, ALA is maybe the most aggressive ribbon con I've ever been to, because I got a lot of ribbons. Oh my gosh! I did have a great time getting to meet people and hear about their cosplays, and I have so much more to say about these autograph signings, but I'll save that for the big one that happens today. And now we went to explore the con. So Long Beach Convention Center has this lower floor of the pier part of it, which the con was calling Akihabara Seaside. And this is where a lot of the costume contest back is. Judging room as well as cosplay repair and the break room for contestants is all here. But also the game room is down here, and we've got any inside. Some of you nice tablets in the game room. Not what you see, fine.
So, complete this thing. I'm gonna figure out the insert tables for this.
If you're a person that's been going to cons for many years, you might get some nostalgic feels about this area because I certainly did. This spot reminded me so much of Hotel Con, seeing the small anime conventions of the early to mid 2000s that were usually located within a single hotel. But it soon became clear that Hotel Con was exactly the intention of this space. It's not something that maybe everyone noticed or appreciated, but for the people who did, this little space was really special. And I was glad to brag kind of be and judging that story. After checking in with the masquerade office and meeting the organizers, my duties were complete for the day, so we headed back to the hotel to change some eating near the ocean. And here's how my badge was looking at the end of Thursday. It had gotten to the point where I stopped putting ribbons on because that was getting cumbersome and I didn't want to have to deal with an already giant badge getting bigger. Call me lame all you want. We all have to I had to duct tape them because they can come apart. When I figured out this one, I put this one here. But we headed off to the pier for dinner, and as we were crossing the street, something really scary happened. Everyone's phones went off again. And previously, the emergency alerts were just air quality warnings telling us to wear masks outside or to avoid being outside, but this time the alert said to evacuate Long Beach. And we weren't in the convention center at this point, but even outside, everything went quiet. Everyone was looking down at their phones. They were pulling up the fire maps, and everybody was just kind of confused because the fires were nowhere near Long Beach, and we could not even smell or see the smoke. And we knew that the winds were blowing the fire west. So I had to get into a point Long Beach needed to be evacuated. And so what I heard inside the halls, artists and vendors started packing up, but then the false alarm came through. This alert apparently went out to all of Los Angeles by mistake, and I wasn't there for this, but I had multiple people tell me that when the false alarm came through, the entire con erupted in applause. But since we knew we were safe now, we made it to Parker's Lighthouse for some calamari and view of the Queen Mary sunset over the Pacific Ocean. Man, the sunset over the calamari. Do you want lemon on there? Oh my god. So at some point, thought that the sun rises in the west, and I was talking to Joe about how well we wake up too early because the time change is different. We should go see the sunrise of the Pacific Ocean. And I didn't realize that the reason why I thought that the sun rises in the west is because of Mary Nestor's prophecy in Game of Thrones, where she tells Danny when the sun rises in the west, and he sets that just stuck in my head. The fact that the sun sets. I apologize for this sauce for not getting it in the shot because it's delicious. That is way too much cheese. I no no. Let's go. Let's go. If we come back to this con and I have my Okarun and Momo cosplays, I want pictures of us as Okarun and Momo on the Goosebumps. Ferris wheel. Oh wait, let's take a picture of us. You know what they don't have though?
Markov.
And at this point, the Walfring Bridge we crossed to get to the pier was full of people doing operations. Just going back to the room, but as we were crossing the street towards the west end, Diana of Holman, stopped me in the street to ask if I wanted to go be on a panel about international cosplay contests. And I was like, sure, why not? Why not? Which was chill because it was kind of just a Q&A panel about international costume contests, but it included Chicken P and Team Kirai Cosplay, who were the most recent World Cosplay Summit Team USA.
Something out. 255. There we go. Tapping. Continue going. Course name is first type name or just gonna mark over. So as well.
Staff and thinking only to realize that it's just another robocall. And if you hate that too, today's sponsor, Delete Me, is here to help. If you are getting robocalls, it's likely that your phone number has made its way into the hands of data trading companies that are buying up and selling off your data. And much worse than robocalls, your data being available to anyone to buy can lead to really scary stuff like being harassed, stalked, or becoming the target of phishing scams. So Delete Me can help you keep your private information actually private by removing your data from hundreds of data broker sites. They also actively monitor those sites to make sure your information doesn't get put back on. I've had a Delete Me account for a couple months now, and so far they have reviewed over 2,000 listings for me. And in the first month alone, they removed 42 of them. It's crazy to think one person's data can go that far, and it's kind of scary, honestly, but I feel better knowing that I can trust Delete Me to help me remove that information. It's just really cool to check out my Delete Me reports and see how many of these sites are actually Sarah free. So if you want to remove your personal data from the web, you can check out my link in the description, use the QR code on the screen, or use my code Sarah. Friday started again. Amazing, delicious, free breakfast. Thank you so much for breakfast. I got an egg sandwich today because I was going to need protein. But this is also where the trip truly became a song of ice and fire because our home of Atlanta was now covered in a blanket of snow. Our missing frozen up and playing in the snow. Joe got into his now iconic wise old man cosplay without a beard because he doesn't like wearing it. And we headed down to the second autograph section of the weekend. And this one also pretty chill. Not too many people this day either. Joe's new backpack. He finally has an Eva bag. You know the name of the artist those are from? No. I'm sorry. Oh, maybe that's one.
Oh, yeah.
But I did get to see some really cool cosplays that made me even more excited. It started with judging, which was up next. So first, let me introduce you to my three fellow judges who I was just excited to get to meet myself. In all your state cosplay is equal artistry, an incredible cosplayer who actually got to create the look for Amy Oddly for All Stars 8. She apparently did the cake look and the lights on the mushroom, so suffice it to say, I was impressed. Oh yeah, and they also currently work for NASA making spacesuits. So
References.
Then we had Siler and Darling, a cosplay couple with 15 years of experience with their highest honor being that they were official judges of the Cosplay Summit USA. Here is the actual prejudging process. I did ask each person if it was okay to film them, but I told the audio private to them. I will tell you a little bit bit of how the process works and how different judges have different styles. Basically, you're on them first with every cosplay. So always ask if it's okay to touch the cosplay and get up close, which most everybody expects and accepts proper. It is okay to say no to that. If we did have one person do, I would like to, but in cases like that, then we just ask that person to pick up their own hems and show them us or turn around their own hems, that kind of stuff. Why are we doing that? Well, craftsmanship is judged on a few things, but the biggest one is cleanliness. So when I flipped this hem in this grimoire cosplayer, I couldn't even tell where the stick was, so I knew there was some impressive work going on. This was a blind hem, and not just any blind hem. Blind hem so perfect, I couldn't even tell what it was at first. I could literally go on and on about blind hems, but this is the kind of thing I'm looking at. If I flip over that skirt and it's a raw edge turned over once, or just raw in general, I'm taking off points. And weirdly, normally when I say points, I'm talking about meaningless, nebulous points, but oh no. At ALA, we were required to use an actual numbers system and give a score to each contestant, which was then inputted into a spreadsheet on the fly by the cosplay staff. I have never been this impressed by the organization of the contest. And this was just day one. I could already tell that this was a very tight ship run by people who knew exactly what they were doing. Well, I'm the first person. Gregor and Darling were over there studying the build books and then getting up to check on the work at the end. And April seems to be a very great listener, which is not my strong suit. My brain works one thing at a time. I look at you and then I ask questions. Somebody checking that build book thoroughly is important because the other primary thing we look at is difficulty, aka the variety of techniques used. And this idea is a really great example. Needed sleeve tattoo that I was told was a yes and much so was a fan because there were some really complicated techniques in there. On top of that, they showed off impeccable gig work and even some work too. And they were only in training, especially in high level contests. The more techniques you show off, the better. Within the big three: sewing, armor, and wig. If you show off even one or two, you will be placed higher than someone who just did one. So at some point we had a lunch break, and when we came back, there was this thing in the room already. It was a sandworm apparently, and we let it have popcorn babies. And we thought it would be funny to chant worm as the people walked in. So I started to film it, and I was just gonna ask permission after they came in. It wasn't a child, so I stopped recording. But this child was actually just a model, as the mom was the creator of both the cosplay and the mom. Yes, this is always as long as the person that made that cosplay is present, they do not actually have to be the one bearing that cosplay. The mom is very much so involved in the performance. You'll see that later. Anyway, to see some really incredible builds after lunch, including this Hasbro Hotel cosplayer working by the horse. And one common judge question we almost always ask is, what's your favorite part of your costume? But for this Baller Gate group, I costume flip that question to, what's your favorite part of each other's costumes? Yeah. Like, absolutely using that question in the future. But back to the craftsmanship stuff. We'll use this incredible Twisted Wonderland cosplay as an example. So this cosplay looks amazing all on, right? But this thing has layers. So we asked them to take the jacket off. And if you're wearing a jacket and you have fully lined that thing, the big move is to take your jacket off and prejudging, especially when there's even more incredible work under that. Like in particular also really blew us away as they were also only in the journeyman category and tailoring like this is really difficult with all these perfectly done details. I was very impressed. The they also finished out with this Miko and Kaito pair with a particularly impressive wig, but even more impressive. Kaito's jacket was perfect, but it was apparently self-drafted. And yes, You take and you pattern it into account. And patterning out a jacket is incredibly difficult. So I was very impressed with these two. But today was primarily the novices with a few training and masters mixed in. Most of the masters entries were coming tomorrow. So with a long day of judging done, I passed the hell out. Saturday was basically entirely dedicated to judging with very few breaks, so we got our fancy breakfast again, and I got the burrito this time because I needed max protein. But Joe got the chicken and waffles, and I was very jealous. We went to the pond to catch the morning story meeting, and this was where I saw the full breadth of how well run this is. Essentially a PowerPoint meeting for all of the contestants to get them all on board on how the day would go.
Perfect morning. The water is calm, birds are chirping, and we're flying along electric, using like nothing but electric power. Sounds like a dream, right? Now, how to get there? Well, you can see right now we have these big engines here, and we want to get to look at the fluid sensitivity poison. So, electric motors, most of this, we pump almost super easily. Yes, dollars. This is a good return. Electric motor, full cycle. I just want to try this. It was about why the engine was overheated. So you can see this was the belt which is supposed to drive something. So let's open it up and see what's inside. So yeah, my assumption was right, and you can see the fillers just fell and fall apart on the small tiny pieces. So rest in peace for attention. Rest in peace. But that's the motor. I need to somehow connect it to our current 255. Yes, I need not so it does exist. So I decided to make it myself. Let's cover it up. I can see this was a blueprint which I did. Was pretty easy to do. And right after a couple of weeks, we get it back. So here's our parcel. Stuff which was given a CNC. I have no idea what the size was. I'm super excited. Anything like this before. I usually guys who own their own turning table, let's say. This is so weird. This is so freaking weird. So this one goes check. It's just you almost know like this is so amazing. So this would be the main holding point for the whole engine. Just make sure it won't spin around. And this is also basically universal mount point. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Visibility. So awesome. It's so cool. Oh my god. And it's cargo thing. A bolt in the shaft. This is so cool. This is so insanely cool. You feel the power? Wow. Wow. Okay, to the start. Well, this so this is 140 volts. batteries, for BMS, this is some cells we have a really bad voltage. Let's say for example here you can see it's 4.1, it's ideal, but if we go somewhere here, it would be 1.2, and this is really bad. So if there, all of them was each. I've already recharged some of them. Just make sure you keep the charge in this charge. And sorry. So it makes sense to try to restore some part of this battery, but at least like some of them, I'm not sure they're like these two battery cells from the 2.6 they're charging. So they're dead. So you need to basically they each of these cells one by one, see if it's good, bad, so on, so on. You have all of them will die. It's why this it's much less. If for any case you will just touch each other, this will go better. It's always like this. You know, I'm asking for the total subject for people makes it difficult. Oh, they 150 hours. You probably do it. I don't know. It's one bar, your battery. That's it. Do you think that's it? Oh no, remember I said the batteries unbalanced? So I need to charge them and then to discharge them once more to test their capacity. After that, no, then you need to okay. Pause for just a second. Use this piece of wood, screw it down into the hole, and use it as a test because I need to firstly connect this engine controller to this building controller. And I have no idea how to do it, so let's see how to assemble it together and see how it goes. So again, this here, so far, so 13, so it's time to clean this up. Temper the battery here on the top, remove the next controller, see what it looks like. Spin, the wheel still doesn't spin, and controller, I just don't have enough or idea. So, yeah, you've seen before. So you know actually to perform well. So this controller which is dead because BMS is still providing comments. Should be still fine. I know a lot of batteries like this one, and it's just disassemble them. So this is okay. So many cells onto them. But right now, I'm just like, just jump wire and just trying to wire like each one by one. One, it's been almost and so I charge this to the battery. So we go 100 volts here, we go 100 volts at shoulder, we go 100 volts wheel. Let's start to try to spin it and see how it works. But the problem is, again, I don't have terminals because you need to connect the battery. So I need to solder it right now. And I found red wires on the fuse. So this is 14WG. This one is a little bit smaller. So original wires 14WG, but I believe it should be fine because we're not gonna use a lot of current right now because we're basically need just to launch the system, tune it up, and that's it. So for today it should be fine, but later on, yeah, we'll need to change the battery, not the wires. We really use this one. Your instructor meetings. Okay, here's the stuff. Well, unit measure, we find computer control fingerprint. And we also have power switch. It was really the smart and first time tried to just because there is to be capacitor instructor and so yeah. So if I turn it on now, it's starting because it should be right now in the after learning mode. So I need to read the manual and understand how it's supposed to do right now. Now after learning mode, I put let's see what's wrong. Let's ID. Was successful, but we had a problem. And it's being implemented. So see this arrow over here. This here just starts being almost. How can you change the direction with these? I'm going through settings. Folder. I found one setting which is amateur description. So basically, I'll just use these settings and you can see. And now, after our wires gets in the right direction, it's actually installed in one part of the channel. This this part actually needs for shop. And now we use one of these holes in the gearbox as a mount for the electric, which is very this engine is not going to go anywhere. It's super heavy. So far, is and then we're going to see anything. Let's create this here. It's right now. Just the solution. So that is the works. What we want is shot. I need to have here some inches of interaction because it was original measurements. So I want to start assembling this portion of electric engine and see how far it will go. In theory, we will have the electric engine coming out here, which I think will be the case. We can just extend some kind of like connections over here. So yeah, we can play around and we can just extend this section. If not, we would have to cut. Before we are going to install it, we can see this play the electric engine.
Mhm.
And Roanoke. Okay, this got lower and lower fucking effort.
Mhm. Mm.
I'm gonna make sure that wasted a bunch of this time getting to this point because
You want me to check the family or not? Oh yeah.
Oh, further, I finally disassembled everything, so I can see everything's here. So it took me about everything was smooth except this bolt, which was installed over here. So there was four of them. For some reason, at the last moment, I decided that I didn't want to go into it anymore. And I can see that I had so much work on unscrew it, but it's basically tear apart into halves, and it was happening like the last moment. This was trying. So these long pages are we can start with. So I send it to the video that one unfortunately I don't have a chart paper on me at the moment, so I have to use something that is paper. And you can see patterns of seeing it like and these two details work. So my goals them just the details as perfectly as I can, the tools I have. So but yeah, I can see everything is playing right now. So yeah, let's try it better. Structure table works. I still see a little bit of even vibrations. Looks fine. I like how silent it is.
I way more sound than anything that the some days have.
Now, so we can install like a water coolant. They're running. We need our battery. You know, just take long, like a long time. Check all the settings. Water cells were changed about month or 2 months ago. I can see the voltage drop on each of them. It's like low. This doesn't voltage change into a single is literally 24 amps, 19 p.m. But later on, when we will update our battery, if we will have these modules separately instead of wiring it in our wire, I can just assemble each module separately. But the EMS will also it's something chunky. Yes. So, for example, the sport same like this whole thing. Disable the whole battery, I can just disconnect one battery module, give it apart, or change it very more. We will see how it goes, but technically, it could be 2 weeks to assemble the whole. 94 batteries. This is all. Right now, it's almost because the temperature is something that's overheating and everything's not going to make but rejects not known. See, remote control is turn this. Oh, yeah. So, yeah. The controllers to control just so the button. It starts. Here we go. And what you can see right now, it's in the drive. We can also switch. Oh, this one. Okay. In the reverse. Drive. Which is going forward. So, it's going to be a must. Yeah. So, you can do one month. That's it. Switch over. Um, it's usually trying to do something to create this vacancy under all of these videos. My friends which people are playing traditional research. 100.8 volts, and this is basically was the only one traffic. I'm sure there's supposed to be more other distance. This doesn't mean a lot. The thing is, it didn't have case for the unified example. I can see it's different. By default, there's no elements. There's no buttons, everything. There's the contacts, and it has the isolation calls for key dissipation. It's fixed everywhere. There's still and there's insulation calls. CSCI now. So you can see this Home Depot thing. Yeah, it works good. Okay, permanent. Something like that. Yeah, the printer printer is not the perfect. In terms of the it's supposed to customize. Key. It's been almost a year after our first test, and what we realized, we love it. Yes, it's good now. But this small water was from a concept we didn't find even know as already one for the two dots sometimes. And the surface is just lots of power. So our regular 5 knots and more, but just why it's and we are looking for target just completely wasn't tool just about $40 now. Even our renovation system was I didn't well there's something you expressed to see it. So put a reminder for yourself because we are preparing a live stream which will be next Friday after we publish this video. There we will tell you more inside information about the option and what options we choose as part of the video. So see you next Friday and while we are references term everything the same. Would you like to convert your boat to electric? Let's just jump to comments. Here we have right now one energy. We can use electric motor to help us go here and show you this tiny electric motor is enough for turn this boat around. So I can see right now I'm picking up with a reverse on electric motor. And it's working out for me going backwards. I'll do it. Now I get electric. with electric to the forward community. Basically, what you need to do right now is just really quickly what this is pretty much enough. And more scholarship ID, scholarship. We start turning. Check this out. We just start turning right, and they can keep going in reverse, and we'll just will turn in one place. This is insane. This tiny electric light is huge load. References. Scholarship. Check this out. This basically turn around in one place. This is just insane. There's no way that that's going to escape your scholarship type. There's not. Because where is scholarship type? Because there is no scholarship type. Oh, oh, scholarship type and then scholarship type ID. I mean, one shiny thing. Welcome back to Piece of Creek. My name's Matt. Behind me, a Caterpillar D8H, specifically the 46A variety. As you can see, this beauty has been shed over here in the heel weeds for so long. I don't have all the information on exactly how many years this thing's been sitting here. And if that tree is any indication, it's been quite a number of years. That's an elm tree, albeit they do grow kind of fast. But so I know a lot of you guys are following Sam's channel as well, and you may have seen he just picked up another Caterpillar D8H of the same vintage as well. That's no coincidence. We stumbled upon these kind of as a pair, and he bought the one that he liked. I bought the one that I liked. They're rigged up pretty much the same, other than his has an enclosed cab. This one obviously does not. This is missing some parts and has no hook or pivot. I'm hoping this one runs. So today we're here to find out. Now that you know the model and that it's been sitting for a number of years, you officially know the same amount of information I know about it. I bought it pretty much without looking at it. I stood about 50 feet away and said, yeah, I'll take it. Hopefully the engine is not stuck. Hopefully it fires up and drives out of here. The official story I got with it was that they parked it many moons ago due to low oil pressure The way the injection pumps work on these tractors is if you don't have the minimum number of oil pressure size, it won't let you throttle up the engine. So they said you'd be able to start this thing and run it for a little bit. Once you got the oil good hot, it wouldn't have enough oil pressure to throttle up anymore. So I'm hoping we can get this thing running and it'll run up to the get out of here. There's a better look at our woody frame there running through the blade. So a few things cool about this tractor that the other D8s that I have does not have going for it. This one obviously has a triple shank ripper here. That can be pretty cool. The D9 has a big old single shank. Triple shank is really probably a little more appropriate for the ground that we have around here. It does only have one shank in it right now. How often am I actually going to be ripping rock? Probably not too often. So though the other two D8s that I own are 4680 D8 inches, just like this one, there are some subtle differences. This one is a later produced model. The other two I have are 1964 models. I haven't figured out the year on this one yet, but it's a later version, which means that it's a higher horsepower model and it has a longer track frame. I don't remember how many rollers are on either of them, but I think this one has at least one more roller than the other machines I have. The air cleaner being in the location that it is, kind of tucked up underneath the hood there on an angle. That's, I believe, how you can tell that these are a high horse model from a distance. Aside from the serial number, this one being a 17,000 serial number. My other ones are 8,000 serial numbers. So this is quite a bit further down the line. A neat bit of history if you want to come in here and have a gander is this tag on here that says Beckwith Machinery Company, and that used to be the predominant dealer in our area. Unfortunately, they've changed hands a few times, and these tags are very neat. I bought a couple machines that had that tag on them, and by the time I went to pick them up, that tags were gone. I'm not letting this one out of my sight. I've been wanting to get my hands on one of these little plaques for quite a while. That's a neat piece of history to me that comes from the tractor. So I haven't really given this thing much of a look over at all. Just didn't even bother to walk all the way over here for the money we were talking. There's a toolbox here. There's not a whole lot in there, but it is a bit of a time capsule. Look at the Powerade bottle. Arctic Academy. It's the Olympics. What year was this from? There's got to be a date on here somewhere. I'll try to Google this Powerade bottle and see if I can come up with a time frame of when this was produced. But it's for the Olympics. I'd have to say early 2000s, maybe even the 90s. 1999. Big John said you found the date on that bottle? 1999. You've been sitting here a minute. That's pretty cool. So, I mean, that thing could have been beating around in there theoretically for a little while before they tried it, but I would venture to say not too often. So, I like a pipeline blade, like with the other two D8s that I have. This one is a straight blade that has tilt. I like these blades as well. As long as it's not a U blade, I'm pretty happy. The D9 has a U blade, and I really don't care for it. As you can see, nature is trying to reclaim this beast. So the first thing we're going to have to do here is yank all the nature back off of it. This machine is still set with a pony engine. The belly fan looks like it's holding water, so that's got quite a bit of air in it. The freeze thaw in the belly fan doesn't damage the oil fan at all. I have not pulled any dipsticks on anything. I'm just hoping the engine isn't stuck or full of water. From a distance, I couldn't see that the stack looks like that. So it's not impossible to think that we were getting water down in there. I'm hoping we didn't, but definitely not impossible. All in all, the machine is in very good shape. All the tin work and stuff is all straight. I don't think the grill's all smashed in. Because it has an attachment on the back here, i.e. a ripper, the fuel tank looks like it's come out unscathed as well. No major damage there. Yeah, the front end of this machine is also in very good shape. The grill is not smashed in. Looks really good. The worst part of this thing that I'm seeing so far is the blade skin is worn through there in several cuts at points. So really, best thing to do is just cut that skin off, pull all the crap out from behind it, and make sure it's fit here for next to anything else, and weld the new skin on it. But worry along the way. So we need to worry about that. We need to worry about this thing. Anyways, let's fire up the sawzall. Start reclaiming this thing. So we could have brought a chainsaw, but I got a new sawzall. Christmas is what, last week? Yeah, sure. Christmas is whenever Milwaukee was going, so I'll tell you that. I have no sponsorship in Milwaukee. If you're watching, we could be friends. I'm trying to get the bulk of the tree out of the way first. And then let's just make sure that he's not going to actually run through the tree. So we're going to have to do some whittling to not break our hydraulic lines. They're in terrible shape anyways. I'm sure we're going to have to replace them. But it'd be nice if I didn't have to do that before I got another. This thing's a beast, but a chainsaw would have been the better tool. And it's trying to kill the camera down with that. And that's where I was. Hey, you need yellow timber. How much is worth it? Let's get into and that stack is not leaving me feeling real good. Oh, there's definitely a whole bunch of stack there. Oh, this mission is just going from feeling good to feeling. That is not just us. This could be proving to be a much bigger project than I was hoping for. We got one line out. This other one, pretty darn buried here. This one here, pretty well incorporated into the tree. Might have to just cut them up and below it and then hang there. You're gonna stage this whole setup? Yeah. I know it looks like this is a stage, situation here. Believe it or not, this is organic. I think this is the definition of organic. So count the rings with me. Well, we probably have access to the control station here. Things are in pretty good shape. You can see our hand, holding up well for the elements. Think. This fiberglass soft top, this is meant to think. You're a local. ChatGPT. It's not the best shape. It does have a crack there. It looks like it's there. Raised up a piece of sand middle there. I see there a bird's nest back in here. Yeah, it's definitely been a while since anybody sat and see. We're sure it's convenient with the rain storage. There's another print sitting here. It was sitting there. There's the can starting fluid. That's a good sign. You ever take the oil? Yeah, I'm nervous to do it, but yeah, I just need to start taking check with some fluid here. There's still one more time up here. But I'm doing it. Didn't even use it though. Engine case and the transmission behind the funny engine. Go to funny engine first. And again, how old it is, I don't know what we're going to be looking at here. Well, it's on the low side, but it is oil and doesn't look like it's full of water. The dipstick doesn't have any rust on it, so it's on the good side. No moisture in that, right? Congratulations. Should be good. There are lots of spark plugs. You have to think about that. These spark plugs, when they sit down in the head here on top of the funny engine, that holds water around them, and they get pretty rusty. Exactly. And pull this gear case back here for the gearbox behind the pony. Yeah, it looks pretty good. There might be slight milky haze going on in there. Not sure how well you guys can see that. If there's moisture in there, it's very minimal, and it shouldn't really affect it either. That's the thing to do that. We're gonna pull the main engine dipstick, and I was feeling good about it, so I saw that pull in the exhaust. Now it's starting to rain. I'm feeling a lot easier to sit here. Oh, I should have done a little bit more inspection on this thing. It's chaos. All right, let me see that. I don't know, boys. These always read over full when they're sitting because there's no engine oil up in the top of the engine or circulating through all the oil ports. So you check these typically with the oil. There's full. We're like clear up here, so. Oh yeah, yeah. We're about double what we should be. Feel like that's good by the minute. Start fiddling with the engine. If it was direct start, you'd be able to just hit the dump back and see if it's going to punch the engine at all. In this case, we kind of got to do a lot of work to even see if it's going to turn. We get the engine running, which is the whole thing in itself, and then that turns the diesel on. Trying to spin the diesel. I guess theoretically, you could put a giant bar in the front of the engine. There from here, I don't think you can. Nope, you can't get there from here. You're in smart notes, it's raging there or something like that. That's not possible. That's why we're up here being disappointed. I'm gonna try to just use this piece of rebar that's laying here. Yeah, basically, it looks like about a half tank. Still smells like diesel. I mean, old diesel, but it's not awful. Terrible. There we go. But it's still good about a fit situation. So here we talk about pony controls. You said what a small horses have to do with this kind of pony engine. When you run out of the stored energy, it's a battery system. There's a button that makes the engine over and fires up. When you don't have that, you're almost got a pony engine. In our case, it's a two-cylinder gasoline engine, but in the same place that a starter would be. And you get the gas engine running, and then you engage it to the diesel. It spins over the diesel. And the beauty of it is it's not only spinning over the diesel, it also shares the same coolant system. So the gas engine is warming all the coolant, and you're creating heat in the cylinders by cranking compression, and you can warm the whole engine in hot diesel. And you think it's going to warm, and you're going to squeeze it full. The engine is full off. It's a good system when they're used regularly and to that kind. A lot of people don't like them because they consume like once a year. Great. See the breaker hole in the skill cap. I was optimistic because it wasn't there to go. I'm eating my words. She's pretty rusty. Didn't bring any secondary fuel tank. Also, the fun part, I don't think you can get this tank out without removing the fluid. Things are really shaping up here. These dummies have a fuel filter at all, or is it just straight line? Straight line in the carburetor. Yeah, I'll run until it won't. Yeah, the best thing we probably do is try to blow it out with the compressor. It looks like it's all dry in there, so blow out whatever debris we can. That's going to take a while. And then just put some gas in there and try to flush it out the fuel line. Probably have to keep blowing out the fuel line after we run 25 gallons of gas through that fuel tank. It might be enough to run coming from it. So get this running over here. Of course, we're going to need some fuel. This fuel line comes down. The carburetor seems to be pretty well stuck. So that's going to take some plug wires. Yeah, they look like they're mostly business myself. It gets them. And I also hate inserting. But the magneto, no doubt, is going to be pulled off and cleaned up with a file. So the magneto generates spark. There's a set of breaker points in there and a condenser. The points from sitting will get a little oxidized. You have to go in there and file, clean up the surfaces of the points so that they make contact with each other. And that sends the spark up to our plugs. Of course, none of that's any good without fuel, so we got to work on that carburetor. That's true. We don't have a starter, so I guess we should start there. I guess we can bring a jump back or battery. See if the starter's going to give up a form. I just thought it might be a good idea to peek down this exhaust pipe, and I went to push the flapper down. It's actually rusted in place. I pushed down pretty good to get through that far. As you can see, spiders are going to be thrilled if we get this thing going. Developers, spider nests, all of it. I guess the other thing we should check while we're standing up here is our antifreeze. That can be an indicator of things going bad in this engine condition. It's not good. I can't see any. Those are the granted, these radiators are kind of hard to see any coolant down in there because you can really only see through that hole. It's not right up to the full mark. Even if it's just a little bit low, and you can see it by the energy hole. I don't see anything. That's not great. If we get her cranking over and thinking about running, we'll check the bottom of the radiator, see if we can make sure the system is sinking. Just want everyone to know it's pretty optimistic. It's kind of easy. You think they'll jump like I said, we'll install a real battery. But that's our battery needs seem to be intact here. You don't want to check that battery cycle's voltage. I'm fine with that, but it's not. It's dead short. You just good. Yeah, there's no juice there. I don't know if we're going to be able to get these turbines right. I'm feeling great about that. Just strip it out. Okay. Fine. I'll take it. Yeah. I like this thing. New battery time. It's copper because underneath the faucet. Looking for this kind of battery. I'm just trying to see how the battery is a good indicator of how long something's been sitting there. Yeah, everybody loves like feeling better. It's great. So the old saying goes, torque to cross, ready? Tight is tight. Well, nothing's on fire yet that I can see. Well, the solo on the bucket. Well, the button on the dash doesn't work. That doesn't work. Nothing. Seems like I should have. Well, you know what? It's a lead thing. I'm not thinking about that. No, you know what? There's a master switch. We're hooking up that wire. Stupid me. We gotta turn the master switch on. Every one I ever work on is always bypassed. This one must not be. So if this works, I'm really stupid. The master switch is right next to the cover. You just install. Staring me in the face the whole time. And that was on. I can see the key marks dangling there when they actually did used to use it. Let's try to put the button. Doesn't sound real real. She's kind of like. Buddy, you got your little exhaust flapper here? Keep going. So, the traffic carburetor, figure out that, and then we're going to speed up on that. So, you got your fuel line and then one of the two other levers. One's a choke, one's a throttle. If it's anything like my other D8, I never use them. They kind of just stay right where they need to be. You leave them alone, it's a whole lot happier that way. The fuel line is going to be the hardest part. I think the one on my other D8 is just a cut right there, and then it has a piece of rubber line spliced in it because that nut's always seized in these. So that maybe what happens here if I can get it from you. We'll probably at least attempt to get that there. No. Oh, but he really that's annoying. Really see it in the flavor. Bring it on the skillet and toss it in a nice penetrating oil glaze. And it's breathing the fumes. It's good for you. That's sarcasm. Some people in the world of YouTube have never heard of sarcasm. Lots of people take things very literally. Oh, God. Yeah. Anger? It's not just all blows, it's sweet little mistress. We want this right. It's coming from 600 Ooh, easy, easy. Shut your mouth. All right, so all that retains the current being the insect is the big O-ring. But from my experience, the O-ring being twice. As I'm bending, take two. You know, you break it. You did not, but it's cool. Yeah. You brought the line because I thought that could be a trouble. I thought that was good. Of course I do. So I can see that. I'm pretty sure I've been in that spot with that on the DA constantly over. I've played so in the past. It's supposed to be. Yeah, well, I mean, what else are you gonna do on Christmas break? I agree. We're not to the new year yet, so we still have time. Oh, there's no problem with it from the government. Is it still alive? That's good. And he gets a George out. The regular heat wave in December. Speaking of that, December is for dozers, in case you didn't know. This is actually my Christmas present from Santa. He left me the coordinates to this thing. Barcode Street. And yeah, termite. What's the field selling? But that's the link that I'm fighting now. I don't think I have that on my other VA. I think it's just in marketing. Lines of disconnect. Hey, it's moving. I like trying to text. Do whatever it wants. And it doesn't accept that. Hey, maybe they just got to match up on both sides. Somebody heated up the porch so it's no. Why would they accept it? It's always a stupid little number. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we're gonna do that. Right? So you should be quick away with that spark plug. Well, of course, remember that when it's back together. It's 2 weeks from now. Expected in an hour. Wow. Rebuild service. If the company runs the engine isn't stuck, I'm very confident. And it won't. It doesn't. Rebuild. Everybody chat types are absolutely pretty good. Number 3 data type recommendations are absolutely. Holy goodness in there. So you can tell. We'll pop the bowl off, see how bad it is in there, and then clean it out the best we can with some brake clean with the rest of it. Go from there. Both hands are slotted, so I can look at loose the prayer, but I just hear it out pretty good screwdriver. If they're special like that. Separation. So, oh, there we go. Actually, a little rusty, but of course. Actually, it looks pretty good. Our gasket's not too fudged up. We should be okay there. I gotta get the throttle loosened up and working. And then we'll hit with some compressed air and a little bit of brake clean. I think we'll be okay. Just gotta make sure everything's workable with free up. It's some solid stuff. Twice a week, that's right. Or range there up here. See what it looks like. It said it was Mark R255 there. And it is plugged up. Doing what's recommended here. And okay. Okay. I've been thinking of a clock. Honestly, it's going. It doesn't much matter. I don't have a good way to show you guys right now. The way the throttle plate works, it's kind of like that spring-loaded baffle on it. So even if the throttle, if it's closed, it'll allow some air to come through. And the little plates that are spring-loaded are on. So it doesn't really matter if our throttle turns right now. It's going to be wide open no matter what. Everything's going to be part nice. Our emulsion tube, fairly clear. A little bit of junk in it, but not much of nothing. Shit's over all over. Let's get out of it. Forget all the plate. That's it'll be okay. Float seems good still. The needle looks okay. All right. I think we can just one rest of it on. How would that be? There is a little fine tune. Idle speed needle here. I think that's your idle speed. Maybe it's air fuel. Either way, it looks not healthy. I don't want to risk damaging it. Trying to remove it. It'll probably be okay for what we're doing here. Also, missing one of the screws that hold on this jerk plate. That's not good. And the hoover down. Okay. Thank goodness. I'm not going to tell you it's a good sort of thing. It's good for who too. So we're facing an issue that I've never had before. If you can see there, our fuel needle has become magnetized. And if it was going into brass, that would be an issue. The seat is metal. And it's actually holding itself up. And it takes a lot of pressure to be able to just squeeze a little bit of air by this thing. I know the fuel was definitely that's the problem. How do we demagnetize this thing? I must have been the set keys that will handle or something.
So the internet machine says you can use a commercial demagnetizer that hammer by feeding it to a very I want to use a hammer to demagnetize it. Striking the metal with a hammer or subjecting it to mechanical shock to disrupt the magnet.
Yeah, but I wasn't too far behind. Actually, it feels like the magnet says it's kind of off. I just gotta watch them dropping it on the points of this thing, so we built the formula. Yeah, it seems like it's maybe less magnetized than it was. I don't know what else to do at this point. I can't really like hit it. It's definitely a hit. All I can do is cross my fingers.
It's a really dumb decision. You could stick it in the end of your higher and
Fire like a shot from it. I can use a socket. This is ridiculous.
You get a tighter fit socket.
near enough space. I don't know what it is. I don't like this decision. I just don't. I don't know. I'll go straight up for this again. I mean, it gets better though. I think it did get better. Why does that mean I will see? It says the shockwave. Once everything get figured out. Just well, when you bear shockwaves, Joe. Or hammer. It's I don't ever get much weight because it says like resistance against something. I think it's maybe just like I think it's good before you typically kind of have to run this out for it. I didn't see that one. That was not in the cards for today. Like which I was feeling them all. We can keep credits at tiny integers. We're here to do that. Should be fine. If anybody's taking a 127 plus credit course, that's called life. It's called 80 hours. Well, that is a rebuilt carburetor with a magnetized fuel needle. Hopefully, it allows some fuel into itself. I guess now we need to blow out the fuel tank to keep this thing and hope we can get some fuel from said tank to said carburetor. There's a valve for the fuel tank here, and it opens it up, and then we're going to blow the pressure back up through the lines here, and then blow up. But they're not quite as bad as I initially thought. The reason this one in particular is rusty is because there's a soldered connection right there in this hole. Keeps the water from going through that gap. It bends out through the side. This soldered connection has been broken. The soldered connection holds on a chain that connects the cap to the tank. So it could be down in the tank. That's considered tank, so hopefully that lets us get some fuel to the carburetor for a while. So, we got fuel sheet, more fuel in. Actually, let's go and do. Oh my gosh, the river. I hate this thing. No, catch it off. Oh, look at the fuel. I'll be the first. Oh, thanks for you, man. You know, I don't know if it's supposed to work this way. This is a ball and socket on the end of the cylinder control. My other one that pops right out of there. This one here appears to be in good enough shape where it doesn't. This will fly like now. It's not Fritz or something. I'm saying, we're frustrated. Thanks, like, this isn't back together. Could be able to get along now. What was going to see that on this page the points like I was thinking that might be it may be good sport. I don't know if I'm going to turn the people to kill them. It's like, I had some stuff. So learning a bit. Why did I put so many screws in this thing? Should be like 2 clips I can distribute your account. There we go. See if we can get this off of here without damaging our gasket. Looks like it's already broken on the bottom. I didn't do that. Shouldn't affect anything. So inside of our magneto here, we have a contact rotor. This is what drives on the contact points to send spark up to the spark terms. Back here is our breaker points. We need to clean up. Those little points in there are almost always oxidized up and not going to let this thing read. I'm sure this is no exception. Oh no. Joe has just found another issue. Our cap here is missing one of the contact points. That one's going pretty good. The other one's MIA. I might have to roll one of these off the extractor. I have a spare one of these at the house. Didn't think to bring one with me. Oh, here it is. You need a wire wheel to clean up your points file to clean up your breaker points. This thing's been flung around my toolbox. They got really clogged up with just jumping through. Trying to clean it out so we're not putting other residue on the points and hurting ourselves. Maybe we're going to get her going. That means these are oxidized up pretty darn good. Well, I was thinking of a filing, but I think we're pretty well cleaned up there. And they have a good job with the buttons. We're going to see if they have any spark down there. You have to the cap one to get spark because the cap is what takes all the oil and puts it up to the breaking points. Yeah. So John pointed out earlier that this little graphic contact here, what sends power up to plug number 1, it's in place as it should be. But this one up here for plug number 2 is missing. And maybe you didn't hear me say graphite contact. I got a pencil. We're not out of the woods yet, but I'm hoping I can whittle myself a contact that'll work for this, just to get us out of the woods, literally.
Any bets? Just put them in the comments right now. Like, John's opinion, we have like 0% chance, but Matt seems very confident. He's explained to me how when you can use graphite lead pencil to make resistors in a pinch and how this is just more good dandy. Don't worry about it. So, here we go.
I'm feeling pretty good.
So this is Matt whittling. Never before seen on Diesel Creek.
I got my tape and check card. Voicemails was like 9, so maybe I'm sure it makes it happen.
And you know that if
all right, we're going to stop recording. Where the hell am I recording?
Some clip in 40 years from now.
I'll find out.